Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Harper Greenfield. Let's get started. There are many myths surrounding gut health: that it needs periodic cleaning, that fecal stones accumulate and blockages form, that it's full of parasites that must be eradicated, or that specific bacteria must be introduced. Some believe you need to get tested, check the ratio of bacteria, eliminate the unwanted ones, support the needed ones, adjust your diet, and go on a diet to avoid allergic reactions. There's even talk of a leaky or dripping gut. These are a few of the many other myths. In reality, it's much simpler. Let me explain which foods benefit the gut, how to keep the bacteria viable, and why the gut might hurt. The most beneficial foods for gut health are those rich in plant fiber, fueling your gut bacteria. Today, most people have a poor condition of their gut and its bacteria. Therefore, if you start eating raw vegetables and fruits, many people's guts will react with bloating because the bacteria cannot effectively digest raw plant fiber. So, not just any fiber-containing products will do, but fermented foods. The optimal choice is fermented vegetables. What's the point of fermentation? The vegetables are almost completely digested and processed by bacteria in the external environment before we eat them. Therefore, it's much easier for our internal bacteria to further process them. Naturally, we also consume many bacteria that have multiplied in the broth, solution, or brine in which the vegetables were fermented. Introducing additional bacteria into the body is very beneficial. There's always a chance that they will replenish the existing gut microflora population. What specific foods? It's the simplest, most well-known, and most accessible vegetable is sauerkraut, but sauerkraut must be fermented correctly. The solution or brine in which the cabbage is fermented should not contain a lot of vinegar, which destroys everything. Want to learn how to ferment cabbage properly? Check out my recipe. In addition to white cabbage, you can ferment all types of cabbage and any other vegetables or cruciferous ones: radishes, carrots, daikon, turnips, and black radishes. Looking into the past, we will see that our ancestors ate this way. No supermarkets, refrigerators, or vegetables and fruits from warm countries existed. How did people survive in winter? Livestock farming wasn't developed on such a large scale, and there was no way to buy meat whenever you wanted. You had to grow crops throughout the year, and then you had to preserve them somehow. So, our ancestors fermented and preserved everything they could. One of the simplest methods of preservation is vegetable fermentation. They salted and fermented everything they could, and in winter, they consumed it as needed. The second product I would highlight for gut health is baked apples. It's not just apples, raw apples, but baked apples. Raw apples cause bloating in most people, but baked apples are much easier to digest. The main benefit of apples is that they contain a lot of pectin. Baked apples are a source of pectin and plant fiber simultaneously. What is pectin? Why is it needed? It's a natural prebiotic. It stimulates the growth of bifidobacteria and lactobacilli in the gut, helps remove toxins and harmful substances from the body, including heavy metal ions, normalizes the motor activity of the gastrointestinal tract, and much more. Let's go back to apples. You can sprinkle apples with something to make them more palatable and enjoyable. The best option is to sprinkle them with something that stimulates bile, such as cinnamon, or add a little honey for sweetness. Again, if honey doesn't cause bloating, remember that if there is a reaction to any sweets or honey, then you should avoid honey. The next product is boiled beets. The benefits of boiled beets for the gastrointestinal tract are well known. Beets have several positive effects. Firstly, like baked apples, beets contain a lot of pectin, easily digestible fiber, easily digestible starch, and mild natural laxative components. Thus, beets normalize intestinal peristalsis, which is relevant for many people because most of the population suffers from constipation in one form or another. The more active and efficient your intestinal peristalsis, the better it is for your gastrointestinal health overall. However, there's no need to aim for what many advocate, eating and immediately going to the bathroom after every meal. We are not ruminant herbivores and don't graze all day in a meadow. Our gastrointestinal tract does not work the same way as a cow's. Therefore, stable bowel movements can be considered the norm once or twice a day. This is the target to strive for. In addition to improving peristalsis and nourishing the bacteria, beets contain many vitamins and microelements. They contain almost all groups of vitamins: A, B, C, E, PP, magnesium, zinc, iron, iodine, phosphorus, and various useful enzymes. In general, it is not for nothing that beets, along with sauerkraut and apples, were a significant part of our ancestors' diet. Many traditional dishes containing cabbage and beets remain popular to this day. Additionally, by consuming beets, you can monitor the color of your urine. If your urine is colored after eating beets, it doesn't mean you have kidney problems, as many think. It means your gut isn't filtering what you eat well enough. The best pigment gets into the blood and is excreted by the kidneys, which is normal. But it happens because the gut can't filter it completely. There is plenty of evidence for this. After people undergo some form of bowel cleansing, like Schenck Praxillana, the mucosa is completely renewed. It is temporarily in perfect condition, and then the person eats boiled beets, and their urine does not turn red. But if the gut mucosa is in poor condition and does not perform its barrier function, the pigment gets inside, and we see it in the urine. So again, if your urine is colored from beets, the problem is in the gut, not the kidneys, and you need to take care of the gut. Try it yourself, and you'll see that sometimes your urine is colored, and sometimes it is not. This largely depends on your diet and the condition of your gut. The gut reacts very quickly into many things, so its condition changes rapidly. Now, let's move on. The fourth product, or rather a group of products for gut health and maintaining it in good condition, is bile-stimulating. If you press around your navel, press deeper. If there's pain, it indicates increased gas formation in the small intestine, which causes the pain. Poor bile flow is the main cause of gut bloating and increased gas formation. Therefore, to reduce gut bloating and bring it to a physiological state, you need to improve bile flow, and one way is to add bile-stimulating products to your diet. What are bile-stimulating products? The main ones, of course, are fatty products, and it doesn't matter whether they are of animal or plant origin. Take note, any fatty products have a bile-stimulating effect. For the gut, it is very beneficial to consume fatty products, be it butter, olive oil, seeds, nuts, or even chocolate with 70 to 80% cocoa butter, coconut oil, fatty fish, or meat. All of it will work. The main task is to normalize and improve bile flow. Of course, if there are spasms in the ducts or the duodenum, consuming bile-stimulating products may cause discomfort, such as standard discomfort in the right hypochondrium after eating. Therefore, before consuming large amounts of fats, ensure you don't have spasms in this area. Read my instructions on improving bile flow, where I describe simple techniques for abdominal self-massage and improving bile flow. Additionally, you need to understand that gut symptoms may not only be due to poor bile flow and bloating, but also other reasons directly affecting the gut. Surely you felt the gut's reaction to stressful situations such as constipation, diarrhea, rumbling, bloating, pain, or bleeding. The gut reacts quickly to stress, but not to just any stress. Let's talk about this in more detail. First, Let's remember that the gut reacts to two main types of conflicts. So, the small intestine reacts to the conflict of an indigestible situation, e.g., an unloved job, discomfort at home. So, if you have any small intestine diagnosis, no matter what it is, look for an indigestible situation in life and try to resolve it. A situation is considered resolved only when it can no longer occur, so there are always three main ways to resolve it. Resolve it radically, walk away from it, or change your attitude toward it. Also, pay attention to tracts, reminders, anything that can remind you of that indigestible situation. A tract can be anything: a person, a place, a taste, a smell, a sound, or something else. Now, there is a conflict in the large intestine. The primary function of the large intestine is to eliminate indigestible food residues. Therefore, the large intestine reacts to the conflict of inability to get rid of an unpleasant situation. And if you have any diagnosis of the large intestine, no matter what it is, you need to look for an unpleasant situation in your life that you cannot get rid of. Or you get rid of it sometimes, and sometimes you don't. In other words, the situation recurs. To heal, you must find this situation and resolve it in the same way as with the small intestine. A situation is considered resolved when it can no longer occur and there are no reminders. As soon as you completely resolve the conflict and it can no longer recur, or completely and permanently walk away from it, the gut immediately begins to recover, and it recovers very quickly. Open any physiology textbook and you'll see that the gut mucosa renews very quickly, taking 5 to 7 days. So you could say that we have a new gut lining every 5 to 7 days. Again, when the conflict is resolved, the gut recovers very quickly and returns to normal. But this is only if there are no reminders and the situation does not recur. This is very important. Additionally, there's a trap that almost everyone diagnosed with a gut disease falls into. Any symptoms caused by the disease can easily be perceived by a person as a new indigestible situation, which then affects the small intestine again. Any diagnosis related to the gut is perceived as an unpleasant situation that is difficult to eliminate, which then hits the large intestine. So, the diagnosis, symptoms, and diseases create new indigestible situations and new situations that you want to get rid of, meaning the gut is constantly stepping on the same rake. In this case, resolving the conflicts is important. Otherwise, treatment can be endless without the correct psychosomatic approach. Always start with the mind. Finally, naturally, water is the fifth product for gut health, the whole gastrointestinal tract, and the entire body. I recommend a glass of warm water on an empty stomach in the morning, a glass of warm water half an hour before meals, and half a glass of warm water before bed. All this will stimulate the gut and its peristalsis, and will prepare it for the digestion process, or stimulate the digestion of food already inside. Develop the healthy habit of drinking before meals and on an empty stomach in the morning. Ideally, you wake up, drink a glass of water, and have a bowel movement. That's the ideal gut function. If you suddenly want to drink water with your food, there's no problem with that. You can drink water with meals, because the main digestive action is performed by enzymes. They work better, and they can penetrate the food mass more easily. Naturally, the more fluid the food mass, the easier it is for the enzymes to penetrate. So, if you want to drink during meals, do so without hesitation. There won't be any problems with that. Now, you have a small arsenal of foods available to everyone that you can incorporate into your diet permanently and make your gut and its bacteria happy. This was Dr. Harper Greenfield. Thanks for watching. Goodbye and stay healthy. Hit like and subscribe to help more people stay healthy.